All right, hello, fourth grade friends. Today we're going to look over our chapter 16 questions. So you'll need your book in your packet. And then we're going to read chapters 17, 18, 19. So how many chapters for today? Three. There is a classwork page that we will do together. So no reason for it not to be done, friends, because we will be doing it together. And then I would love to give us some homework work time. Any questions on what we're doing for reading today? All right, so your packet should be open to this page because we already did 1 through 15, so we're looking at question number 16 with chapter 16. What page is it? Mine says page 20. I don't think yours have page numbers though. But all right, so let's see. What was the boys' only hope for escaping the wrath of the Padrone? We read through our last chapter 16 was very intense. What's their only hope? What's their only hope, Micah? Read me what you wrote. I was going to say to move to America, right? To move to America. Good. I really love snaps for Micah. For a second, pause your snack. Do a snap. Why is Micah getting a snap, friends? What did he do that was above and beyond? Amelia?
He used part of the question, and then he did a full quality sentence.
He used part of the question to make a full quality sentence. Monica?
He also didn't start it with because.
He didn't start his sentences with because or something like that. He started with part of the sentence. Amazing. Okay? And he got it right, too. Yeah. All right. He was hoping they were going to go to America. You might have said that they were specifically for this one spot going to go to... maybe New Jersey or New York. I'm thinking in Italy. Where were they going to go? Napoli. Good. All right. How will the boys be split up? How will the boys be split up? I want you to read me your full quality sentence. How will they be split up, Lizzie?
The boys will be split up by Salvator and Antonio going to New York, while Francesco went to New York. What?
You're close. Where are Antonio and Francesco going? Not New York.
Antonio and Francesco. It's the same.
Sorry, Antonio and Salvatore.
It's like
New Jersey. You said New York for both of them.
I meant to say New Jersey. That's what I read.
So Francesco's going to go by himself to New York, and Antonio and Salvatore are going to go to New Jersey. Also, can I get a for Lizzie? She said the boys will be split up using part of that sentence in her answer. Amazing. All right, what about 16? What things did Father Tommaso tell them to take? He told them to take quite a few things. You remember, Zach?
Father Tommaso told them to take and then the rosary of their mom.
And the rosary from their mom. Oh my goodness. Holy moly. Rockstar answers 3 for 3. And Zach did a great job saying Father Tommaso told them to take it using part of that sentence or question in our sentence. Rock stars. You definitely need their shirts, their nice shirts you might have said, their shoes. How many pairs of shoes do they have? Just one. And what do you think Father Tommaso really wants them to take? Why would Father Tommaso want them to take their rosary? What do you think, Isaac? What was it? Because he's a priest. You're getting there. Go a little further, Isaac. He wants them to get there safely. You're just about to touch it. You're so close. You're reaching out to it. Can you finish it? Claire, can you finish it?
It's from their mom, so it's like the only from last time.
All right, so you got 2 hands reaching out, but no one's grabbed it yet. You're really close. Nathan? Your one hand is really close. The other hand's close, too, and no one's grabbed it quite yet. Monica? You're still reaching out. Thomas? It's only, you guys are so close. You can almost taste it now. You can almost taste it. Zach? It might give them courage, Amelia.
I think I could grab it.
You're getting a little further away. Go back to Father Tommaso. Why would he want them to have a rosary? Why would he want them to have a rosary, Bennett? So they can pray for their safe journey and their life in America. Oh, yeah. That was a bonus question. Okay, that was just a kind of inferring chatting. All right, number 19. We got 2 more to go. Why had Dominic become so sad? Think through. How would you start your answer for this question? Do I want this one with a because? No, that's like a 3rd grade answer. We're almost to 5th grade. We want to have that 4th grade nice quality sentence. What do you think, Alasia? With the Candiano boys. Oh, snaps for Alasia. Dominic was so sad because he couldn't go with the Candiano boys. Something along those lines. You might have said he couldn't go to America or he'd be left behind. Something along those lines. Didn't think, is it really similar to the answer Alasia gave or any of the ones I just said? Good. Good eye. Way to notice that it was really close. All right, number 20. Explain how, although they were not his dream family, he still did not want to lose them. Think through. How would you explain that? Why does he still not want to lose them? They're not his dream family, right? That's all he's cared about. Zane, what are you thinking?
He still did not want to lose them because he felt like they were his future.
Oh, snaps for Zane. That was awesome. He felt like he did not want to lose them because. Is it okay to have because in your answer, friends? Oh my goodness. It'd be almost impossible to do it without, but we just don't want to start it with because. We want to get a little further into our sentence first. Any other reasons you were thinking of why, even though they weren't his dream family, Zane's was awesome? Any different ones that you thought of, though? Claire?
Dominic didn't want to lose them because they cared about him a lot.
Because the boys cared about him a lot. And Claire gave a great start to that sentence, too. Air high fives to Claire. Go. All right. Any other ones? I'll take one more. Thomas, what were you thinking? Because they treated him like family. That is awesome. All very similar and all wonderful, acceptable answers. Should you have said something about he didn't want to lose them because he's scared or something? Maybe you said that too. There's lots of options for that one. And what did we do with this big box? Do you remember? We scribbled it out. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So on your page right next to that, you have on the very top the title. It says chapter 17 through 19, class work. We will be working on this page together today, friends. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it a little better. Okay. And I'm going to do this for you, my in-class friends. Okay. Kateri.
The back page is also really long.
We will go over that in a little bit. This will be our classwork page, okay? So I would have my packet handy to this page because we're going to start down here with the 17, 18, 19 little boxes. Okay? So we're going to read. While we're reading, I have a task for you today, friends. Your task during each chapter, after we're going to pause and come back here. We're going to write or list the main idea or major event from each of these 3 chapters. So each chapter is going to have something. We got to write the main idea or something big that happens. Okay? So go ahead and get your book ready for chapter 17. All right. Chapter 17. Let's see. We last left off, remember, Dominic, like Alasia said, was super sad because he's going to have to lose the Candiano brothers. He can't go with them to America, like Micah said. All right, chapter 17. As they made their way down the hillside, the four boys kept a sharp lookout for the Padrone's search party. They hoped that Father Tommaso's mention of the north had worked, but they were still careful to stay well out of sight. Do you notice how the author put mention in quotes? Normally quotes mean somebody's talking. Why would the author put that in quotes then? Why would the author put mention in quotes? What do you think, Maddie?
Because like it was like kind of like lying, but like
Yeah, he remember Father Tommaso, he said, mention Rome to me. So that he could say, well, they mentioned it, right? Claire?
also like when we say something sarcastic, we do this sometimes, so kind of like
Sometimes when we say things sarcastically, we kind of go like this around our words. The author's kind of playing on that too, making fun of saying that he mentioned it. Good. So after walking for what seemed like hours, they agreed to stop for a rest. Shh, listen, Francesco whispered. You can still hear the bells. Dominic listened as he could just make out the faint ringing of bells in the distance. We've never lived beyond the sound of the bell tower, Francesco said sadly. It will seem very strange not to hear them. Maybe they will have a bell tower in New York, Antonio suggested. They all grew quiet again, listening for the familiar ringing. I wonder how many men it will take to bury him, Salvator said suddenly. Who? Antonio asked. Brindisi, of course, Salvator answered. They're going to need a giant casket to hold him. Francesco nodded his head as he took the cloth sack off his back. Antonio pulled out the shoes and put them on. They look awfully big for your little feet, Dominic couldn't help but notice. Antonio frowned. They were Papa's shoes, he said. They fit me best, Francesco admitted. But we take turns wearing them for Mass and on feast days. What do they mean by feast days?
Like a big dinner, Christmas.
Not a big dinner. Think through it. Mass and feast days. Think through our Catholic faith. We're really similar religion to them, right? What do they mean by that? Nathan? Not Fish Friday. Monica?
Like St. Joseph, like
The Saints' feast day. Good. So when they celebrate those big days in the church, like when Father Paul wears like red or purple, right, different colored stuff, usually to signify a feast day. Good. Salvatore and I have to stuff them with rags to make them fit, Antonio explained. Can I wear them now? He asked his brother. Now that we're going to America? No, you haven't any rags to stuff them with here, and it's too far a walk yet, Francesco told him. I'll carry them in my pack, and when we reach America, you can put them on. Why does he get to wear them and not me? Salvatore snapped, pounding his chest with his fist and pulling one of the shoes off of Antonio's foot. Your feet smell worse than mine, Antonio retorted as he tried to get the shoe back. Stop it, you two, Francesco ordered. How many times must I tell you about sharing? Now, why can't you figure this out for yourselves? I can figure it out, Antonio bragged. I'll wear this shoe and he can wear that one. Dominic grinned and Francesco shook his head. As ridiculous as two donkeys trying to pull a cart from both ends, Francesco sighed. Ooh, what kind of figurative language is that? As ridiculous as two donkeys. Simile. What is Francesco trying to compare? What is he trying to compare? Lily? Donkeys and his brothers. And what is he trying to get at? What is he trying to get at? Bennett? They're not sharing. Micah? They're being really stubborn. Monica? It doesn't work, right? Imagine a donkey trying to pull a cart from both sides. What's going to happen to the cart? It's going to either break or will it even move? No. But he's saying it's happening. Both donkeys are trying to pull. Just like both brothers being like, well, I'll keep one shoe and you keep the other one. Does that make your feet comfortable? It keeps one comfortable, not both of them. All right, so trying to pull the cart from both ends, Francesco sighed. What will you do when we get to America and you don't have me to settle your squabbles? This last question hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Ooh, what does that mean? This last question hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Think through what he just said. What does that mean? Claire?
Like, he thought of it for a minute?
You thought, what was it?
He, like, was thinking about it for a while.
He was thinking about it for a while. Well, let's think through. What did he just say? What was the last question? Can you point to the last question for me, friends? Lily's got it. My a few other friends. Good. Lily, what was that last question?
What will you do when you get to America and you don't have any food?
And then the author said the last question hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Can questions really hang in the air like a heavy cloud? No, so he's using figurative language. What is the author trying to say with that last question? Ryan?
It's like nobody's been, like, answering it, so it's floating.
It's kind of, nobody's really answering it. It's just floating there. Why do you think the author said a heavy cloud? Why didn't he just say like a cloud? Why would the author say like a heavy cloud? Zane? It's a very big question, right? Do you think Antonio and Salvador have really thought about that yet? And what does that do to Antonio and Salvador, do you think? Kind of question themselves, kind of make them feel sad, right? Like, what are we going to do without you there? We haven't thought of that. Oh, so it's kind of brought the mood down. What will we do without you, Francesco? Antonio whimpered. Terry, make sure you're still listening. But Francesco got hold of himself quickly. You will do your best to remember that no matter where we are always a family. This is not the end of the Candianos, he smiled. It is just the beginning of the Candianos in America. We will be a family there too, I promise. Everyone seemed to brighten at this thought, and they once again set off on the paths down the hillside. Antonio did his best to keep up with Salvator, who was practically running. He was so anxious to see the ship. It was only Francesco who kept stopping and turning around, keeping a constant watch for the Padrone's men. With the village finally out of sight and the bells out of earshot, Francesco began talking to Violetta, who would often comment with a nod of her head or a blink of her eye. I wonder what the journey on the ship will be like, Salvatore said excitedly. I hope Violetta doesn't get seasick, Francesco worried. She's never been out at sea before. Neither have we, Salvatore exclaimed. You're not as sensitive as a goat, Francesco told him. No one is as sensitive as your Violetta, Salvatore quipped. Dominic understood Francesco's concern. If he had Violetta for a pet, he would have felt the same way. With the crimson sun sinking low behind a line of cedar trees, Francesco decided they had best make camp for the night. It's no more than a 2 hours walk from here to the harbor, he said, but I don't want to get to the city at nightfall. The streets are known to be dangerous after dark. There are thieves and cutthroats about then, so we'll sleep here and leave at first light tomorrow. Zach? Cutthroat? Well, let's think. There are thieves and cutthroats. Do you think cutthroats are good people?
No, they're
Bad. They're people who would do pretty much anything to get what they want. Thomas? Crimson. Where, can you read the sentence? Oh, with the crimson sun. So think through. The crimson sun sinking. What time of day is it, Thomas? Sunset. So what color what do you think crimson is then? Like a burnt orange, red. Good. Yep. All right. So they're going to get to the city in the morning and they're going to sleep here tonight too. With all the fresh air and the excitement they had that day, Dominic's hunger was growing worse. No one else mentioned food or the lack of it. Dominic guessed that they were used to going to bed hungry. They made a soft bed of pine needles and everybody lay down. As the sky filled with stars and a silvery moon hung above them, they talked in hushed whispers about the journey they were about to make. I wonder if there are stars in the sky over America, Antonio murmured. It's not another planet, Dominic said. Of course there are stars in the sky. But sometimes you can't see them because of the pollution from the cars and the lights from the sodium lamps. Pollution? Cars? Sodium lamps? What are they? Francesco asked. Why is he so confused? Why is Francesco? They're from a long time ago. Do they have cars and pollution and all that stuff? They don't really have, well, they have some electricity, but do they have like street lights everywhere? No, it's a different time, so they don't have these things. Dominic hesitated, not knowing how to answer. You see, in the America I know, there are lots of cars that you ride around in, but no horses. Horseless carriages? Salvatore asked. We've heard of them. Well, yes, in America I know everyone has one, and they make the air very dirty. And the sodium lamps are bright orange lights that they use at night to control crime. Everyone grew quiet at this remark. What else do you know of America? Salvatore demanded. Dominic hesitated, not knowing how to answer. Well, I guess I know a lot, he finally admitted. Maybe he had relatives who went there before the earthquake, Francesco whispered furtively to Salvatore. That's probably how he knows so much. He's got it mixed up in his mind that he was there himself. Remember, what does Francesco think happened to Dominic? The earthquake. Good. Nello Polini's cousin told us the streets of America are paved with gold, Antonio said. But Emelina's uncles went there and didn't find any. Emelina thought that maybe they were looking on the wrong streets, Salvatore continued. But then they wrote to her mother to say there were only horse manure on the streets, like here. So which is it? Salvatore asked. Gold or manure? What do you think? More like manure, right? Good. All right, let's take a pause and go to our packets. All right. So, what is our big thing that's kind of happened in chapter 17? What's our main idea? What's our big thing that's happened? What do you think, Amelia? The boys are walking to Napoli. Oh, not they boys. Yep. The boys are walking to Napoli. Do you remember what we said Napoli's city name today is? You're close. Naples. Naples. Good. Was there anything else really big that happened in this chapter? Not really. That kind of summarizes, right? That main idea, what it was mostly about. Good. All right, we got 2 more chapters to go then. We'll go ahead and keep reading with chapter 18. Gold or manure? Dominic repeated the words aloud as he scratched his head. Actually, there's neither. Not in the America I know. Sometimes you can find money on the streets, but not very much. Some people can get rich if they work hard, but others work hard and never get rich. I'd be glad to have the chance to work for some gold, Salvatore said. I want to work as a cowboy. Do you know a lot of cowboys? Dominic asked. Salvatore knows all about them, Antonio assured him. Angelo Foretta's uncle showed me pictures of them, Salvatore said proudly. They were wearing big white hats and they had shiny guns and silver spurs. He talks of nothing else since he's seen them, Francesco muttered. How does Francesco feel about cowboys? How do we know he's not impressed? How do we know? Zach?
He talks of nothing else than can't do.
And how did Francesco say it? He muttered. If you're muttering, are you saying it very loud? No, you're like, he talks of nothing else. How else is he kind of feeling about them? Not impressed and a little bit annoyed or bored. Like, he's talking nothing else. Saw this picture a long time ago and he won't stop. Oh my goodness. I will come and visit you, Francesco, in New York City, Salvatore promised. I will get a job and buy us each a gun and a horse and we can ride over to see you. Then we can sit under the stars at night and eat linguine together. Dominic closed his eyes and tried to imagine the cowboys he remembered from old Western movies. You know, I don't think cowboys ate linguine under the stars, he said. No? Salvatore looked surprised. Then what did they eat? Pizza? Well, I don't think cowboys ate pizza either, Dominic said. What then? Antonio asked. Beans, I guess. Lots of beans, Dominic told them. I think it's going to be different from what you're expecting. I am expecting to see those big hairy buffaloes, Salvatore informed him. Is that going to happen in New Jersey?
No. There's a lot in Iowa.
Dominic grinned and reached into his pants pockets. He pulled out a half-dozen pebbles before pulling out his nickel. It was the old Indian head nickel that he had found on 9th Street, back home in Brooklyn. He held it out to Salvatore now. What coin is this? Salvatore asked, turning the nickel over in his hand. It's an American Indian head nickel, Dominic told him. And on the other side is a buffalo. Salvatore sighed with envy. I cannot understand the words, but I can see it's a buffalo. I wish I had one, he said, tracing it lovingly with his fingers. It's a pretty rare nickel, Dominic bragged. Not a lot of kids have one. You are so lucky to have such a coin, Salvatore whispered. I wish I had something good enough to trade for it. Oh, I would never trade anything for it, Dominic told him. I just thought you'd like to see it. Dominic took a deep breath of the tangy pine-scented air, and he couldn't help smiling over Salvatore's envy. That doesn't seem like Dominic, does it? Why do you think he can't help smiling over Salvatore's envy? Why do you think Dominic, think through what we know about Dominic, why is he smiling about somebody else's envy? Thomas? He usually doesn't have a family that has a lot of stuff. Okay. Maddie? He feels rich around them. You guys are getting close. Think through what we know about Dominic. What do we know about Dominic so far? He's an orphan. Marco.
Hello.
Oh, you are awake. Good. What else do we know about Dominic, Bennett?
He's an orphan and he's poor, so he doesn't have a lot of stuff. And he can't really impress people because he doesn't have a lot of stuff.
Right, in his America, does he impress people a lot? No. So do you think he's ever felt this way before?
No.
No, he's like, somebody wants something I have? Whoa, this is pretty cool. Like, I've never been the cool kid. I've never had all these friends, and now they want something I have. That's kind of awesome. It's kind of awesome. All right. He took the nickel back and held it in his hand. Then his eyes widened as Dominic noticed the date on the face of the coin. Look! He cried. The date on my nickel. I almost forgot about it. It's 1936. This is proof that what I said was true. I'm from the future. Salvatore and the others peered down at the date on the coin, but they were not impressed. It's all in English, Francesco shrugged. How do we know what those numbers mean? It could be the date or maybe just the number of the coin. Dominic put the nickel back in his pocket. He knew it was useless to try and convince them. What else do you know about cowboys? Salvatore asked. Let's see, Dominic said. I learned Home on the Range a long time ago. That's a real cowboy song. Teach us, Salvatore and Antonio exclaimed at once. We want to learn to sing like real American cowboys. Even Francesco seemed interested, although he warned them to keep their voices low. Okay, Dominic laughed. He remembered how bored the boys in his music class were when their teacher, Miss Faulkner, tried to teach them the song. Dominic concentrated now as he worked hard to remember the first verse. Awed into silence, the Candiano boys hung on to every word he sang, and soon the still night air was filled with a perfect harmony of their voices, singing just above a whisper. As the stars grew bright overhead, Francesco and Antonio were quick to fall asleep, but Dominic and Salvatore stayed awake, and they talked late into the night. You know, Dominic, Salvatore whispered, I hope to be like you someday. Me? Dominic said. Sure. You are brave and kind, and you know real American cowboy songs. He ducked his head shyly. You are my hero. I like you too, Salvator. Dominic finally managed to whisper awkwardly. Looking at the stars overhead, the two boys talked about heroes and cowboys until they grew so tired they couldn't talk anymore. It was a night Dominic knew he would always remember. He didn't want it to end. When Dominic finally closed his eyes, he was lulled by the voice of Salvator, who softly sang, Where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Pause for a moment there. Good. Has anyone ever heard that song before?
Yeah.
Home on the Range?
Yeah, that's my new favorite song.
That's your new favorite song? Oh. All right. While we are thinking through, why don't you talk with your partner for me, please? What do you think the main idea of chapter 18 was? I'm finding something here really quick. Alright, before we share that, keep your thoughts in your head. I have the song I just want to play really quickly for you. Coming back to anybody else yet? You heard it? Raise your hand if you've heard it. Seldom. It's a little slower than normal. It's like a campfire song, so they would play it on a guitar while they sat around at night.
That was a lovely song.
It is short. So they would just keep repeating that song over and over. All right. Let's think through. What main idea or major event what happened in chapter 18? What do you think, Rosie? I forgot. Micah? They talked about cowboys. The boys talked about cowboys. What is the author pointing out? What are the boys doing during chapter 18? Not only are they talking, what's happening to them? What's happening to them? Brooke?
What's happening to them is that they're talking about America and the cowboys, and they're learning more about America.
You're right. You're getting closer. Think through these boys, right? We have 4 boys. They said they're like family before. Now they're on this journey. It's at night. What's happening to their friendship during this chapter? It's growing. They are, do you know a word that means that your friendship is growing?
Trust.
You're getting trust. Bonding. They're bonding, right? What was it? They're also going to bed. Yep, the boys continue their walk and begin to bond, right? We know they're beginning to bond because of all those things you said. They're talking to each other, they're telling stories, they're learning things. They're beginning to bond. Awesome. Good job, 4th grade friends, following along, keeping our goal in mind for today. Good job. All right, we got one last chapter to go, friends. Chapter 19. It is pretty short, okay? When you're ready, open up to chapter 19. Thanks for not answering your homework questions yet, friends, and giving it your best focus, so I know you're really hearing the whole story, not just trying to get your work done. That responsibility is key. Chapter 19. Salvator's voice was the last thing Dominic heard before falling asleep that night, and it was the first thing he heard the next morning. But this time, Salvator was not singing. He was groaning. "My stomach hurts," he cried. Dominic sat up to find Salvator doubled over in pain, clutching his belly. "I told you not to swallow all those cherry pits yesterday," Francesco scolded. "Antonio, what are you doing?" he called. Antonio had knelt beside Salvator and was trying to look up his nose. What do you think he's doing? Remember, he said he's going to have a tree growing out of him, so he's trying to see. "I think I see the tree starting to grow," Antonio whispered. Oh, Antonio. While Dominic and Francesco laughed, Salvator groaned and pushed Antonio away. "Are you feeling good enough to walk?" Francesco asked, putting his arm on his brother's shoulder. "We must reach the city today." Salvator's face was white. He bit down on his lower lip to quell the pain, but he insisted he could walk. What do you think that means, to quell the pain? Kind of hold it or stop it. Good, to quell it. They were still over an hour away from the harbor. It was an easy walk going down the well-worn path, but they had to stop several times as Salvator was doubled over in pain. Francesco frowned. "It's not good to travel with a sour stomach," he said. I can make it, Salvator insisted. Dominic and Francesco took turns helping him to walk. They continued down until they finally reached the cobbled streets of the city. Dominic was glad to be off the stony hillside. He was not used to walking barefoot, and his tender feet were now quite bruised. Suddenly, the little group found themselves walking into a fantasia of color, voices, and music. "Vive Napoli, pour me, see Naples, and then die," Francesco whispered. "What are you talking about?" Dominic asked nervously. "It's an old saying," Francesco explained. "They say you haven't lived until you've seen this city." What can we kind of infer about Napoli, about Naples? It's beautiful. Anything else? Rick?
It's nice, colorful, fancy.
It's colorful, it's fancy. Bennett, sorry. There's a lot of music. Monica? There's so much stuff just going on all over the place. Picture that for me, friends. You're by the ocean. You got all these noises, all this music, all these colors. Probably a lot of different smells, right, going on from everything going around. Whoa. I just hope I can find a way to stay alive in this city, Dominic thought. He stared at the women in long skirts and the men in cloth caps as they swarmed along the side streets that climbed toward the higher quarters of the city. Fountains gurgled, a baby cried, and a young girl hung over a balcony, singing to the passerby below. All the activity reminded him of the hustle and bustle of the streets back home in Brooklyn. But the look and smell of this place were quite different. Great domed buildings with ornate stone carvings rose up above the terracotta-colored roofs. The strong scent of ripe hay and manure was thick in the sea air, along with the pungent aroma of seaweed and fish. Shifty-eyed conmen stood on the street corner, hawking their goods to the weary immigrants about to embark. Now that's an interesting phrase. Can you point to that phrase, hawking their goods? So think through what that could mean. Shifty-eyed conmen stood on the street corners, hawking their goods to wary immigrants about to embark. What do you think that means, to hawk their goods? What do you think, Claire?
Like trade their items.
You're close, not quite to trade. Think these are con men. Do they just want to trade? No, Alicia? They want to what? Do the con men want to pay? Take? No, they're hawking their goods. So the con men have stuff. They're on the corner. They're going to hawk it. What do you think, Thomas?
Maybe they're like selling their stuff.
To kind of sell it. Let's see. Teeth pulled, one shouted, grabbing hold of Dominic's arm. Don't make the voyage with a mouthful of rotten teeth. Dominic squirmed his way out of the man's grip and broke into a run to catch up with Francesco and the others. What do you think hawking means? To kind of... they would either try and give you stuff, or they would maybe try and take too. Why would they want to give them teeth? Why would they want to give you pulled teeth? Think through what we know about immigration. We did a lot of pre-reading with picture books, and we talked about immigration to America. Why would they want to give you teeth? Why would you want to have somebody else's teeth? You're going to America. Why do you need somebody else's teeth? Why do you need somebody's teeth? Why would these people be trying to sell you teeth? They need money, yeah, but there's more. Why would people would buy them too? Why would people buy these teeth? Really?
Because no, like they don't have like toothbrushes, so they and in America they have like muscle.
Not only for just because they don't have toothbrushes, you're close. Zach?
It's that you know how you have to go through all the doctor stuff? I bet there's like a disease with teeth or something, so you might not be able to pass.
Remember, you go through all those stations to get checked, and they would look inside your mouth, and if you didn't have a lot of teeth, are you young and healthy? Probably not. Do they want you in America? Probably not. So they'd say, here's some teeth, just click them in, and then you can pass that test, right? Would you want to do that? Would you take somebody whose old tooth that they pulled out of their mouth and put in yours?
No.
Amelia?
Do you think that Salvator is gonna pass it because he's not feeling good?
That's what I'm wondering. Remember, Salvatore's stomach. Remember, what do they have to do when they get to America? They have to do the test. What's the very first test? Do you remember what the very first test? You don't know it's a test. You have to walk up the stairs. Do you think Salvatore would be able to pass that? But Holly's right. It's a 2-week travel. Maybe. But Holly's right. It's a 2-week travel. Maybe he's going to get better. Right, Holly? Fingers crossed for Salvatore.
Maybe he gets seasick and then it's
Maybe. All right. All right, so Dominic broke away from the tooth man. Authentic American shirts, wailed another after them. Don't arrive in America looking like a greenhorn. Relics of the saints to calm an angry ocean, promised another. Hair from the head of Saint Christopher, guaranteed to secure a safe journey. We have no money, Francesco told them. Only our tickets. Why did you tell them that? Dominic whispered frantically to Francesco. You would never tell someone on the streets what you've got on you. But Francesco didn't seem to understand. And Dominic soon realized that coming from a little mountain village, Francesco was not as street smart as a person coming from a place like Brooklyn. Dominic felt something brush against his sleeve, and he turned to see a grimy-faced boy, younger than himself, trying to pick his pocket. He pushed him away. Then another smaller boy slipped his hand into Francesco's backpack. Hey! Francesco yelled. Stop! He's stolen our shoes! Oh my goodness. And that's the end of chapter 19. Whoa. Alright. So that chapter had a little bit more going on, didn't it? What was the main idea? What was the big event about that chapter? What was the big thing that happened? Kateri?
They were like walking through the streets and people were like
Go back one step. What streets are they walking through? What was the first thing that happened in the chapter? Lizzie?
They reached the city of
They reached Napoleon. They're walking through the streets. Good. Bennett? And Salvatore doesn't feel well. Good. So they reach Napoli. And Salvatore doesn't feel well. And Salvator, sure, we could say still doesn't feel well. Because it did kind of start with him, right? And even after their walk, he still doesn't feel well. Those are kind of the big things. What do you think? Were those people's things they were selling really helpful? One of them might have been. You could also mention that they got their shoes stolen. You got it. What would you do if you were the boys and your shoes got stolen? Box them down. Alright, I'm looking for a mind it. I'm looking for a mind it. Thank you. Alright, friends. Not on the back side, but turn the page and you see it says homework. The Orphan at Ellis Island, chapter 17, 18, and 19. So we have read all three of those chapters, which means you can do the whole front side and the whole back side. Okay? Down here, you're following along with me, friends? On the bottom, after this boxes, do you see where it says write it? Marco, do you see where it says write it?
Yes.
You can cross off that part. You don't have to do the write it. Huh? All right. Then let's work our way up. You have to match the vocab word on the left. Notice, what does it say right after the word? 87, 89. What does that mean? It says what page. So if you forget, go back and use our clue and try and read around it to figure out what it would mean. Then you have 12 questions to answer in full sentences. It looks a lot worse than it really is. Okay? They just give you a little bit more room to write your sentences on some of them, okay? So you have the front and the back, fourth grade friends. Monica? Well, I didn't make this, so this person doesn't know how to type, I guess. You can cross it off and write 14. Okay. 12, on the back side it says 12, 13, 12. All right. Thanks for joining today, friends.